Good morning, everybody. I have a bunch of cactus orders to fill this morning. That's like my first thing, except this is my first thing. I've been wanting to do this for a while. I have two problems on cactus that may or may not be infectious. And one, I've seen people say that it's virus. I have a pretty strong suspicion that it's not, but I just don't know. So I'm going to try to spread that to cactus that don't have it. And the other one is black blister, stress blister. I don't know what it is, black rot. I've suspected that that is not infectious. So we're going to try to spread each of these to cactus that don't have them and just see what happens. I mean, no use speculating. Now, I haven't done any research to speak of on either of these things. I'm just like that. I'm autodidactic. I want to just do the experiment and see what happens. And it's, it'll be interesting data either way. And I have tons of cactus to experiment on. So let's get this done. And then I'll fill cactus orders and ship them out to you guys. So this isn't a really good example, but this is it right here. It often will be, these large black blisters. It's very weird. Like, it'll show up randomly on living cactus that seem otherwise fine. Sometimes really bad, but usually in smaller amounts. And then in other cases, it'll happen after you take a cutting. So you take cuttings, and then all of a sudden they form these like green blisters under the skin, and then those turn black, and then they start weeping and rotting, and it's pretty nasty stuff. So here's some here that's worse. Hopefully you can see that. Like, there's one here and there's one in the back there. So those are pretty good, but I'm gonna go see if I can find the pieces that I cut off and threw out, because they were really bad, and they'll provide lots of gooey infectious material to spread it if it is infectious. Threw a bunch of this out under this tree. There's a real nice one there, or not nice, whatever, nasty. And this cutting, was just a small cutting, and it did this, and I ended up throwing the whole cutting out because, if I cut it out, there wouldn't be a lot left. And again, I kind of suspect it's physiological, because it often just will show up after you cut stuff in these big blisters. Okay, here we are at the cold frame, and I had a bunch of seedlings get this. So again, I've heard people say that this is viral. We're going to find out, or try to find out. This isn't super scientific, so we're not going to be able to be like 100%. Well, there is no 100% in science. This is a common misnomer. I'd say the average person thinks that science is about proving things. It is not. There's no proof in science aside from, like, if you want to quibble, there's proofs in mathematics and logic, but that's different. And there's a reason for that. It's a mechanism by which we hold our assumptions lightly. So I have a bunch of these, so I'm just going to experiment on like 8 of them. And with these, we're going to try to spread this to cactus that don't have it, and then we're going to try to spread the blister to these. I don't believe anything about this, but I suspect that this may not be viral and may not be contagious. For one, it tends to be more isolated to like periods of growth rather than just like showing up on the whole cactus. Sometimes it does, but often it doesn't. It'll just be these little sections, as if like something happened physiologically or something during a certain growth phase of the cactus. Here we have a bunch of cactus. This one is actually showing signs of whatever that is, so I'm going to move that. I kind of move these over to the side just to isolate them in case it's infectious. Okay, so in here I'm going to look for cactus that I don't really care about too much. This one, that one looks uninfected. Alright, let's do it. Okay, I'm just going to sanitize this plate. This is not sterilization. It's about levels. Sterilization would be like put it in an autoclave and cook it for X amount of time. We're just going to sanitize those a little bit. Okay, looking good. So, I mean, if this is infectious, then something like this should be able to spread this if I, really make an effort to smash it up and get it into the other cactus. Kind of mash this a little to get it extra juicy. You know, at the very least, if this doesn't work, we'll know that it doesn't spread easily. And then I think what I'm going to do is just make a little wound on the cactus and just do that. That's it. So that's done. Now we have our nasty, gross black blister crap. In terms of science here, this won't be very great data. Data's it's in levels, and there's all kinds of confounding factors. This is just like an informal quickie experiment to see what happens. It doesn't mean that the data isn't potentially useful. And what a lot of people think is, oh, well, that data's no good because there's not enough controls. But in a way, there's never enough controls, and that's why we don't engage in belief, which is the same as proof. You know, proof is belief in science. There's no proof in science. And I think I'm going to go for like trying to infect like areoles here. We're going to rub this in, kind of smear it around the surface a little bit. So for instance, I don't know that this is still infectious. It may be something that's infectious early on, like you have a cold, right? You're infectious for a very short period of time, and then you're not. So I don't know anything about that. This is why you do, you know, large numbers in science when you're designing an experiment. It's why you know, try to use your creativity and imagination to imagine what other problems there could end up being. These processes are not reliable. We're just, you know, we're limited in our intellect and ability to like understand our own biases. But you would think that this would probably infect these if it's infectious. And I'm just going to kind of like take this other one and hit all these again, and also kind of smear it up and down the stalks. I can't even see where I cut this one. I'll just cut it again. Okay, maybe I missed it. And again, just kind of smear this on the plants. Where again, I haven't researched this really significantly at all. I'd rather like do this, get some data, and then compare it to any other data anyone else has, like do a little research after. Not too close to the other cactus. And we'll see what happens. You know, we can't come back in a week and be like, oh, look, it didn't spread, you know, or whatever. We'll look at it again maybe in the spring or something like that and see how things went. If you want to buy seedling cactus, the website is teamwachuma.com. There's still quite a bit of good stuff left in there. So